So, welcome, Jeremy Ansellem from
Yes.
Spotify. You'll notice Jeremy is a younger, more handsome, more cosmopolitan version of my friend, genuine friend, Duncan Bruce from Spotify, who unfortunately had a change in his schedule and couldn't be here. But we're very, very glad that Jeremy has joined us with a very European perspective. And we're going to talk a lot about Spotify's activities, and I'll see if I can twist his arm into saying some stuff that he's not meant to, or reveal some stuff for us.
We'll see.
We'll see. Let's see how this Anglo-French thing goes. We're sat very far apart, but
Let's sit.
yeah. Anglo-French relations, we're good. Okay.
We are absolutely good.
So, as I said at the start, Spotify has been on quite a busy journey, in my view, with just new stuff appearing regularly at the moment. So I'm going to want to touch into a few of those around charts, around your partnerships with bookshop.org, Page Match, and then I'm going to ask you things around what next, these kind of things. But a little bit about you, because you and I only met
yesterday,
so I don't know much about you, which is quite good and fresh. What do you listen to?
Well, I'm listening to Marie Oliver poems read by Marie Oliver, and also books published by Audiolib on Le Chef Bocuse, which is a very famous French chef, which is not very original for a French guy.
Okay.
But both are very different audiobooks. Yeah, I'm listening to that.
From someone deep within the industry, where do you listen? These are obvious questions, but this is me trying to get to know Jeremy. So where do you listen?
I'm mainly listening, I would say, when I'm running. Yeah, I'm exercising a lot. I'm getting older, so I'm running a lot. And I'm listening especially to poetry when I'm running, which is, I recommend you to do so.
That feels like a contradiction.
No, absolutely not. When you are listening to poetry, when you run, there is something that is happening. You can focus more on what I would recommend Charles Baudelaire for the French.
And because we're going to talk about this quite a lot today and around the voice, what do you personally look for in a voice? If you're not looking for a particular author or particular poetry selection, do you ever just gravitate towards something based on voice?
Not really, but for fiction books, it's quite important to me to not have a voice that is having with too much emotions, I would say. And also a slow reading pace for me is important. So I am listening in line speed.
So
I'm a slow person, I would say. So I need basically slow
You're
reading.
The first person I've met who slows it down.
Yeah. I know that. Yeah, people are listening to speed times.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Okay.
So slower it is, the better it is to me. Surprisingly, maybe.
So now we know each other inside out. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. But let's talk about some of the things you've been doing. So you've launched Charts, which I think is a really interesting play. Can we talk about a little bit more about what the aims are for Spotify to move into that particular thing?
Yeah. So firstly, what we want to say today is that we've launched Charts in the UK and the US, but we're also launching in Germany Charts, which is a news that I'm bringing today to you, Nathan, especially.
Yeah,
for you only. So we are launching Charts, and what is important to us, is to create as many connections as possible between users and books on our platform. And we know that the charts is something that was expected by our users because that's always, books that are resonating a lot with users. So that's a new way, basically, a new entry point to start discovering books. And for charts, it's very popular, I would say, books that are, of course, in these charts. And that's important to show these books, especially to attract new listeners, to attract new people to the audiobook format on Spotify. Charts is a great place to start listening.
And can you explain for the people here at the forum what quantifies a read, what quantifies a position?
Yeah, so basically it's updated on a weekly basis as for the podcast and the music content on Spotify. And it's a combination basically of listening behavior and consumption data overall for audiobooks on Spotify. It's quite difficult, to standardize things when it comes to charts. But for now, what we can see is we do have a good rotation. It's working quite nicely. We do have good results.
And are you already seeing this as like a point of gravitas or kudos for authors who are like, I'm number one on the Spotify chart?
We can expect this to happen, but so far we didn't get this feedback. Of course, we know that it's something that publishers and authors will look at on a regular basis. Everyone wants to be the number one or at least in the top 10. So yes, we can expect such a feedback.
I'm really happy that you revealed Germany next, but am I right to presume that there's more to come?
Of course, there is no reason to not have charts in all markets where we have audiobooks in premium, but we absolutely want to make sure every time that we are rolling out something that it's safe, basically.
Okay.
We want that to be safe, and we want, books to rotate. We want things to be clean, I would say. So we are very cautious every time, yes, we are rolling out something. That's why we did not roll out charts in France, the Benelux region so far, but that will come, of course, as fast as possible, but not now.
Thank you. And one of the initiatives that I think has been so welcomed across the publishing industry as a whole is the partnership with bookshop.org in the US and the UK. So can you talk us a little bit more through that, and particularly around what the UX is in that for the book buyer?
Absolutely. One news also for you, Nathan, is from today. It's been rolled out. So on Spotify in the UK and the US only, premium users can buy the physical format of the audiobooks that we have on our platform. It's a drive to store, mechanism. So basically the physical edition of any audiobooks that we have on the platform is available into the physical format. We've tried basically to implement as much as we could the bookshop.org, components, I would say, to avoid creating many steps and losing basically customers. So the integration is almost perfect, but on iOS, you need basically to go out for obvious reasons. But we are looking forward to get the first results about that, to be honest. The connection between I would say, the digital assets, the digital items, and the physical stuff is quite important for us for the music side of things. We have rolled out, the ticketing years ago, and last year we generated 1.5 billion in value, in terms of tickets for the concerts, which is great. So we do expect something significant to happen also for the physical books that might be sold via Spotify and via Bookshop.
And again, we're going to talk a lot around later on around audio being a bridge for reluctant readers. But I love this point about, I've been a big advocate for blurring the lines between print and digital, or digital sales or products or whatever they are. And as a music consumer, like, I use Spotify to discover new music, and I want to support the creator by them buying as well. And that at the minute Spotify was pushing physical, like vinyl to me or t-shirts, I'm a sucker for that stuff. So if any of that can translate into book sales, it's amazing.
Oh, that's great. We do expect a lot, to be honest. It's a great signal that we want to send to the industry, that formats can be complementary, basically. We are providing audiobooks to our premium users, but it doesn't mean that we are not interested also to grow the industry overall by pushing physical books. So we'll talk about that with PageMatch also, but it's part of the strategy, of making, an experience seamless between formats. So that's the first step. Bookshop is the first step towards this strategy.
Rights-wise, have you faced any barriers where the print component is not owned by the same publisher who publishes the audio, or is everyone just on board? Like an audio publisher, the book's on Spotify, but the print is by a traditional publisher?
Yeah, it happens, of course. But, it's all about, bringing more value for authors also, overall for creators. So everyone is on board with this initiative. Yeah.
So you mentioned PageMatch. We're going to need to put something on the screen in a minute. So Spotify, you launched, when did you launch PageMatch? And could you talk us generally around what the aims are? And then I think we're going to show something as well.
So PageMatch is a feature that we've launched in the beginning of 2 months ago for English content only. It's basically a new one of a kind feature that is enabling users to take a picture of a physical book or an ebook. And basically, we drive this user exactly to the story point where basically the reader was taking the picture. So it's really the experience, the multi-format experience that is enabling users to connect between formats. Normally,
We've got a
we
little
will
video
have,
as a walkthrough.
I can
Let's see if we
try
can
to do a pantomime of if you'd like. So we've launched it 2 months ago for English audiobooks only, but we do have also news for you, Nathan, a lot of news.
more news.
More news is we are launching today Page Match for more than 30 languages, including Italian. We are in Italy, so we are including Italian.
Can you give us any more? Because it's a very international group.
Exactly. So for French, I see a friend coming from France in the audience. So for French as well as for German, Swedish, notably. So the main markets in Europe where we've launched, the main languages spoken in these markets will be covered by Page Match.
So we have the video here.
Cool. So it's basically quite simple. So on the product page, you do have the obvious button, which is named the Page Match. You need to click on it. You are searching for a specific book first, and you click exactly. So you click on Scan to Listen. It's very smooth, very, I would say, organic to use it. And we will drive you to the exact point where you stop reading the physical or the ebook version. So we cannot hear anything, but basically, it was the text on the picture that would been, read at this point. So it's really, a very smooth connection between the physical format or the ebook format again, and the audiobook format. And we do have some first figures to share also with you today. It's been quite amazing, to be honest, how good was the reception of this feature. So it's been understood very clearly by users. So the first figure that I can share is we do observe that users that use Page Match are listening 60% more on a weekly basis compared to the average listener. So there is a strong correlation, I would say, between the usage of this feature and basically the listening behavior. But more importantly, I'd say what is crucial is to put the emphasis on the fact that it's new books very mainly. 62% of the books that have been used for Page Match on English content, because we've launched only for English content so far. It's brand new books from the Spotify standpoint. So basically, users are adding even more books to their library. They are reading even more, and so on. And that is great because, it postulates when you are using Page Match that you do own the physical format. So it's purely, incremental value for, publishers and for the authors overall. So we are quite happy with that. So we've seen, what we name the inbound flow. So when you scan to listen, we also strive, to work on how to bring back the users to the print version in order to do back and forth between the physical world, I would say, of books and the audiobook part of things. So the reception is great. Users understand very clearly, how this feature works, and it's very smooth. It doesn't take, I don't know, it's less than 1 second basically to be driven to the right point of the audiobook. So we are very proud with that, and it relates again to the strategy that I was emphasizing, of creating this multi-format experience. It's true. A multi-format experience. I think that it's been years since, we talk about a multi-format experience and so on. So we are trying to bring tangible evidence, I would say.
It's a real symbiosis between the two. That's fantastic. 60%. I learned over, it was like 60. So that's amazing. And have there been any challenges in terms of getting this up and the publisher buy-in or anything like that? Any pushback?
No, publishers were on board very clearly. We always take into account the input of publishers when we do plan anything when it comes to product. It's really important to have a transparent communication with publisher to avoid, any misunderstanding, innovation and Spotify superpower, I would say, when it comes to innovating can be exciting, but also publishers sometimes can be a little bit, they are wondering some stuff. So we are here to help. So no hard pushback, I would say, but we wanted to educate publishers about this feature before rolling it out, and everyone is on board. It means that on all audiobooks in English, I think almost you can picture this, and in France, in Germany, and in Sweden, as example, you'll be able to use page match for all audiobooks available in these languages. So it means in the end that everyone is on board.
It's amazing. And one of the other kind of technical additions I've seen is recaps. Can you just lightly touch on how that's going? And maybe
Yeah.
for some people that might not have seen it yet or heard of it.
Yeah, in a nutshell, recaps is basically a small summary of what you have been reading for any audiobooks that you have consumed on Spotify. Imagine, you have listened to season 1 of a given series, and the season 2, the sequel is released 1 year after. You do want to get, you do not exactly remember how the season 1 was ending. You can listen to the recap basically to remember exactly what happened in the last season. That's quite important to us to make sure that users can reconnect easily with their audiobooks in order to basically increase the stickiness on the user audiobook level. And the results are great. We can see very positive feedback from the users that really appreciate, using this feature.
And I guess it's particularly useful because we all know how much people listen to audiobooks before bed
Exactly.
when
Yeah.
we start to drift off. So, well, that's my personal view.
Yeah.
One of the other things that's really clear, and not just uniquely to Spotify, there's a huge growth at the moment from you and I was going to say your competitors, other amazing platforms around. There's, as I said at the start, this huge surge again internationally. And you've gone live. My company's from Norway, so I'm particularly intrigued around your expansion into the Nordics. To me, feels quite different in that you don't have full catalogs, as far as I'm aware, in the markets you're in. So I wanted to ask around that approach a little bit, and then also ask why no Norway?
That's a great question. So I think as of today, we do have 600,000 audiobooks available across the Nordic markets. I'm looking at someone at the back to check my number. That's a lot, including a lot of local languages catalogs, but we do not have everything. That's true. But we are aiming to scale, of course, in the coming months. The catalogs. When we launched, to be perfectly frank, we needed to, unfortunately, to prioritize a bit, for everything that is touching to distribution and ingesting catalogs and operations. And I'm looking at someone that knows this stuff also in the audience. It's always a bit complicated, to make sure that everyone is on board. But we want absolutely everyone to be on Spotify as fast as possible. And why not Norway? Norway is a special market. You know that?
Very, very special to me.
Yeah, when it comes to the book regulations. And as we always want to make sure that we are compliant and we are aligned with everything that is local stuff, regulations, frameworks, it takes more time to enter Norway compared to others. We are interested in launching in Norway, of course. It takes a bit more time compared to Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and Iceland.
I'm sure people are aware of Norwegian book law.
Exactly.
I don't know why I did this, but
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
a unique place.
Book law, yeah.
So I want to ask you a little bit on this international side of things. What dictates where you go next? And specifically, I don't imagine you're going to tell me where, but lots of people will say Spain or Spanish language, Latin America, Brazil. What dictates where you go next? What do you look for?
We are looking at opportunities, I would say. There are different type of opportunities. You do have markets like the Nordic markets that are quite mature. We can think that we can bring, even in such markets, a new audience, an incremental audience. And it's exactly what is happening on I was about to say the Norwegian market, but it's not yet the case. So, for example, in Sweden, the Swedish people are talking about a male reading crisis. And they've been very surprised to see that the male readership is more important than the female readership on Spotify. And we might be able to solve, according to the press, the male reading crisis. So even in such markets where basically it's very, for example, female-led, fiction-led, and so on, we can bring something different. So, for example, more male and nonfiction is over-indexing across the board. So because of our large reach, I would say, we do have a penetration rate which is quite great. We do have 280 million paying subscribers across the world. We can basically get attention from people that are not necessarily on competitors' platforms and bring in the end of the day additional value to the publishers and authors. And there is another type of opportunity, which is like France, for example, which I know well, which is a growing market. What does it mean concretely? The publishers' revenues coming from audiobooks is not that great. We need players to, I would say, create awareness about the audiobook format. And we think that we are quite well positioned, thanks to this reach, again, basically to expose audiobooks to millions of people. So we look at these two types of opportunities where we can be good at bringing an additional audience or educating, I would say, people to the audiobook format. And when it comes to the markets that you've mentioned, so Spanish-related markets or Portugal and Brazil and so on, there is no reason to us, to not bring audiobooks where we might be able to distribute audiobooks. We want to bring audiobooks everywhere. It's really a matter of making sure that we are doing things in the right way, like Norway again. We take time to make sure that when we launch, everything is done, in a way that everyone is on board, aligned, we are on the same page, and everything is happy with that. And so far, it's been the case, I think.
And we've seen Audible at London Book Fair announced 11 new markets. You've been expanding. Voxa, some of you may or may not know, Voxa have just announced launching in Hungary. How do you see generally, what's your take on the expansion and contraction of how some of the companies expand and then pull back? So Storytel, for example, very famously, aggressively went hyper international, then seemingly scaled back a bit, have now started, it feels, to internationalize again. So how do you feel about that? And then in that same answer, can you talk around your view of the competitive landscape more generally? Because your footprint is immense. But do you see anything collaborative within it? Or are you just like, we're Spotify, our footprint is so big, we're going to do everything in the right way, but we don't need to think about the rest?
Last month, yes, it was last month. I was in Stockholm at the Book Branchdagen, the industry day. And I was sitting with Niklas Sandin from BookBeat and Klaus, who is the CCO of the new CCO of Chief Commercial Officer of Storytel, and we were saying, okay, we can do things together, basically, because we are additional to the market. Again, what we are aiming to reach is firstly what we name, the new and casual listeners, not people that would read, 2-3 books a month or maybe even more. In Sweden, I was working on Next Story before Spotify. Sometimes we were having crazy listeners listening to 20 hours a day per day, audiobooks every day. We do not have these people. So again, it's a matter of bringing more people to the audiobook format, and especially with a focus on the younger demographics. We know that in many markets, there is an issue to reach basically these targets, and we do have these subscribers. So we are doing our best basically also to bring these people to the audiobook format. So I think Niklas and Klaus was agreeing that we can be, additive, in fact.
And I think we've got 10 or so minutes left. So I'm going to a couple of quicker kind of questions. Where's Spotify's stance on original content? It feels like there's growth everywhere, but where are you with originals?
We do not do original. We do have a small team sitting in the US, which is named Spotify Audiobooks, which is publishing English audiobooks, which we license to publisher with no exclusivity. It's really a publishing house, an audio imprint, publish, I think, 200 titles a year. But we are not aiming to do originals. We are not also aiming to do exclusives. We want, it's quite important for us to signal that we think all books should be available everywhere at the same time to all, basically. And one also proof about that very quickly is we launched an initiative in France, which is named the Creator Fund. So we help basically local publishers to publish more in 2 local languages. So we provide basically some grants to these publishers to stimulate the production, but we do not ask in exchange any exclusivity, so they can roll out on competitors' platforms audiobooks at the same time. So we are really, not exclusive.
Clear.
Yeah.
I like that. We're going to talk about this a lot later. What is Spotify's stance on AI voiced recordings?
AI voice, it's quite important for us, to say that we do mainly care about human, human narration. We know that's what our users very mainly wants to listen, but Also, AI, we cannot neglect that it's a good way especially for the self-publishing authors to enter the audiobook space. There is such a big barrier, an entry barrier with the cost of producing an audiobook that we are welcoming AI produced books, especially for the self-published author, but we need to be very clear with the users what they are listening to. So we do have some strict guidelines when it comes to the metadata that publishers and authors send to us, making sure that it's clear that it's read by an AI.
So we're really clear. You do accept AI voice recordings, whether it be in full or in part, as long as it's clearly defined as such.
It needs to be clearly defined, and we do accept only 2 service providers, I would say, for AI: 11 Labs and also Google. It was this year, since February, I think, for the 11 Labs, and last year for Google model. So we want basically audiobook producer that can be an author using the quality models.
And just give us a little bit, and then I'm going to open the floor to questions. We'll have time for 1 or 2, I think, at the end. Can you give us a sense of how big? So everyone knows Spotify. I'm sure we all have Spotify accounts more generally. How many staff are dedicated to audiobooks within the whole Spotify setup?
To be honest, we do not have a specific count because we are very cross-functional.
Okay.
The engineering part, we have people that are working, for example, on recommendations that are not related directly to the audiobook vertical. But I can tell you that there are many people because we are investing a lot in the audiobook space. We've launched 2 years ago, but it's something that is for the long term. We do not have any count to provide, but a lot of, to be honest, good people are working there. I mean, on the product side and engineering side of things, and the licensing partnership side of things with Duncan Bruce.
And I'm not asking for financial numbers, but are you able to share anything percentage-wise? Percentage-wise, what audiobooks represents for Spotify?
We do not have any specific figure to share, but what I can tell you is we absolutely focus on audiobooks because we've observed that users spending time with audiobooks have quality time, basically. They do not have no regret, basically. And we do increase the positive perceived value of Spotify. So the time that they are spending with audiobooks basically is increasing the time that they are spending with Spotify in a very good way. So of course, compared to music, you can expect that it's lower, but in the quality of the time is impacting basically overall the Spotify figures for the cohort of users that are listening to audiobooks on Spotify.
And from the powers that be on high within Spotify, what defines success for audiobooks? Is it this point you've just made, or are there other things?
We, also can share today that 6 users out of 10 eligible audiobooks in premium users, so people that are using audiobooks, that can use audiobooks in premium, are using audiobooks, have started to use audiobooks, and this is our success metrics. We want people to adopt this format and then return to the format with, page match, with the recaps. So we strive basically to attract new listeners, these new and casual listeners, and making them, creating habits, making more consumption, over time for these people. So adoption rate is quite clearly, our main target for now.
Great, thank you. We've got 2 quick questions. Who's first? There's a Swedish person in the front.
I have a very general question, not Swedish in particular. I was wondering, Spotify has this wonderful, extra view where if I listen to a song and there is something in the lyric that I don't hear properly, there is this, there is this extra feature where I can actually read the lyrics.
Song DNA?
Yes, I love it. And speaking of or referencing back to what you said with lowering the speed, especially when you read or listen to poetry, have you any plans to maybe help with reading understanding by also adding a similar feature where you can also read text, synchronized text along with the audiobook?
It's not something that we have in our plan for now, but when it comes to Song DNA for the audiobooks, that would be Awesome, for sure. Well, and how does that work? Song DNA, we are partnering with some, source of information in order to bring this information to the user. So we would need basically to find reliable quality information to explain the context of a certain piece of content that we are providing to users. That's a good point, and I will take it back to the product team. That would be great. Absolutely.
Good question, Lars. Thank you. But does anyone else have one? We got Jeremy for one more question. Yeah, Ali.
Thank you, Nisid. Thank you for this great presentation and the great discussion. I have a question, but it's from Arab countries. In last November, you announced a new pilot in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates of Spotify Premium Platinum subscription. I need to know more about this pilot project now after 6 months. What's next?
Yeah.
The results for this as a pilot.
Yeah. We can discuss later if you'd like, to discuss more further this question. But we launched in some new markets, especially including Saudi Arabia 6 months ago, and we do have good results basically when it comes to the usage of audiobooks in these markets. So we are doing great, and we are aiming, of course, to also scale in these markets as we would scale, in the Nordic markets to bring more, especially more local catalogs to these markets. This is what we are a bit missing for now, but yes, we are on it. But let's discuss later.
I love this about this thing, right? Because we're all in the same thing. And in fact, I got told over dinner that I know from last year's forum that deals were made just in this little gathering. I love that stuff. So the very fact you're going to take this offline, give Ali more detail,
Exactly.
I think that's testament to us all getting together. Jeremy, thank you very much for coming in
Thank you,
last
Nathan.
minute, being way more eloquent. No, I'm not going to say that. Being very eloquent, and it's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. You're hanging around?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you very
Thank you.